most of my stuff was just some weird version of me. I'm a very selfish comedian, and most of the things I would write were things for me.
I was more sort of situational comedy at that time, and then I would also have a lot of sort of more conceptual pieces. But I did have, like, the character of June was a recurring character.
I wasn't very good at writing big group pieces. It was always like, one-on-one sketches where I felt like the directors would get annoyed. Like, you need to utilize more people in the cast and not just you and Atkins in every sketch.
Actually, the sketches that stand out to me and that I think about the most and that I remember the most are ones that I didn't write and some that I was not in.
She was the character who, I did write it based on someone I knew. And she's just the character who just comes up with an excuse on why she can't do what she thinks she wants to do.
I think a lot of my stuff would be much like this. It's very dialogue heavy, and I run on, and it's very conversational.
One of them being the Scooby-Doo epic sketch, which Jen wrote. And she told me she was going to do this, and I'm like, well, this is impossible. There's no way to stage this. This can't, it's funny, but you can't execute this on the stage because doing real life versions of cartoon characters never works out very well. Matthew Broderick, I respect a lot, but he is no Inspector Gadget. It just doesn't translate all the time. So I thought there was one reason it wasn't going to work, and it was just too epic, too grand. And of course, when it all came together, I mean, it has to be one of the most memorable sketches that Sketchworks has ever done, including the chase scenes that were so iconic to Scooby-Doo, the lights flashing. I mean, it was all very true to the whole thing.
One I was thinking of earlier that I'm pretty sure Jen Kelly wrote, the Jokers, I'm pretty sure Jen wrote that. That was one of the silliest things where it was a family reunion where every single person in the family was representative of a different style of comedy. So like one person was a stand-up comedian, one was an old vaudeville comedian, one was like a clown, and it was just the whole thing of it was so bizarre. It was like a roast comic, and it was one of those ones that I think she tried to get to work a whole bunch of times, and it just finally came together in this one particular show. And I was just the old grandfather in the back, and all I did was hit rim shots on a drum, like when people told jokes. And I don't know why that one stands out to me, but it was just one of any of the big ensemble pieces like that where you have I just couldn't write those, but I enjoyed being in them.
I mean, I think about a lot of our sketches were slice of life, so there's often situations that will remind me of a sketch that we did. There are lines, we still will quote or shout out, depending on who I'm around. So, I mean, one that pops into my head right away, I think about a lot because it was right when it's called Font World, and then there was a follow-up with emoticons, and so it was right. It was more of a conceptual piece, but it was one that every time I see a specific type of font in the scroll when I'm choosing, I'm reminded of the sketch and the personalities that each of the fonts had. So things like that will pop into my head.
The ones that I think of, the Catman sketch that I was in that with Atkins. Leanna Adams wrote that one. That was just the silliest, like where I was a cat burglar and he was a cat man and was like Batman but Catman, but he was more of cat than man. It was just the weirdest thing where we would writhe around on the floor and he would act like a cat, and that was just, it always did really well, and it was just fun. To any of the sketches that me and Atkins were pretty much just the two of us in, we were goofing off so hard the whole time. That was always fun.
And then another one was the version of Grease that was done by zombies. I don't know why that struck me as just so freaking funny. But just the repetition of the choruses, one of them is human and then the other is zombie. Summer loving.
Well, I realize I'm not very good at talking into the lens on my phone, so it always kind of makes me look cross-eyed.
I spent way too much time trying to give the sketch a funny name than than making the dialogue as interesting as it should be.
I'd like to, but I don't know how to do Zoom.
A lot of drug humor.
I don't have a very good internet connection.
All of my characters were failed musicians.
But that sounds pretty complicated.
Yeah, okay.
But I don't really know what my schedule's gonna be this week.